6'4". He's athletic, hit the cat-like reflexes.
Ramirez with a drive. Away, back and gone.
Number 3,000 for Adrian Beltre.
National League MVP. Rendon's, yeah, he lit it up, man.
3-run walk-off home run for Justin Turner.
And rain done been brought again.
One of the best third basemen in the business.
Back here, top 10 right now, and there it is, 10 through 3, according to the Shredder. Mike Lowell is back with us now. Mike, I think the Shredder's pretty locked in. Again, you might want a certain player on your list, but when you actually make the list, there's not much room. You've got to bump people off.
I know in years past, I've really had some problems with the Shredder, and I can't say that this year. I don't know. Does that mean I'm moving to the dark side?
Look at that. No, you're
I'm
locked
scared.
in to the logic, the irrefutable logic of the Shredder. So there you go, 10 through 3. Again, we're talking MVP candidates, and now we're talking the best players in the game itself. So at number 2, according to the Shredder, yes, we're going to the Colorado Rockies and Nolan Arenado. Arenado comes off another spectacular season, his 3rd straight year with state-of-the-art defense, a .570 slugging percentage, and, okay, Mike, I'll even acknowledge it, 130 RBIs.
Thank you.
I know that's a lot. Arenado finished 2017 with a career high in WAR at just a 7-win season. Arenado, over the last 3 years, has put up the stats and the volume, even with the Coors Field advantage. These are impressive. 159 games a season, nearly a 300 batting average, 40 home runs, and 131 RBIs. Yeah, I'm saying RBIs again, which means at number 1, according to the Shredder, it's Kris Bryant of the Chicago Cubs. Bryant overcame a slow start, bounced back in time to lead the Cubs to a division title last year, and he finished with top-shelf numbers, a .409 on base, slugging .537. He also played full-time at third last year, played plus defense, and his extra bases taken percentage, an outstanding 60%. Over the last 2 years, Bryant has been the class of a most talented field. Number 1 at the position in on base, 3rd in slugging, number 2 in overall hitting, that's weighted runs created plus, number 1 in base running runs, put the whole package together, number 1 in WAR. Yeah, Mike, I like, look, when you're talking about guys at this level that are all so great, something like Kris Bryant's base running makes the difference. Base running does matter. He's very good in that area.
He's outstanding, and I think when you're talking about these two guys, you have to split hairs a little bit. You got to find something that really separates one from the other. For me, Kris Bryant, not only huge power, starting to understand the strike zone much better. I love the fact that in the last 3 years, well, his 3 years, his strikeouts have gone from 199 to 154 to 128. That is a big sign telling me that he's I know he walks a lot, he gets on base a lot, but I think he's looking for his pitch and putting his pitch in play harder more often. And I think the sky's the limit for this guy. I'm looking 40-plus home runs is totally in his capability, and it's going to be fun to watch how he develops and matures into being more of a superstar in the years to come.
We are splitting hairs here because, look, I'm in lockstep with the Shredder. The top 4 were exactly the same. That means the Shredder got it right, I guess. So time to reveal our lists. Okay, so Mike Law, again, it's not that you're wrong or anything like that. To me, though, it seemed fairly clear. I don't know, not clear, not convincing, but there was enough separation for me with Kris Bryant over Arenado, whether it's just last year or over the last 2 years. I went Bryant, Arenado, Donaldson, and Donaldson, had he played a full season, and again, he had a calf injury. It wasn't like a contact thing in the field. He had a calf injury. That's his own thing. So I have him now number 3. I could have had him as high as number 1 had he played a full season. But I think Bryant, with his, when you make the park adjustment, and I don't want to overcorrect for Coors Field, but when you make the park adjustment, his offense, to me, is just better than Arenado's.
Well, for me, going back to Donaldson, the games played did sway my vote, for sure. Right. When I went back between Arenado and Bryant, I was trying to find what could I see different. When I look at Arenado, I mean, I look 5 years, 5 Gold Gloves, in a group that rates as a lot of plus defenders, he's by far the best. And then I look at 73 RBIs for Bryant, 130 for Arenado. And I say, well, what makes the difference there? I still believe there are guys that have the nose for the RBI. Not saying that Bryant does not. I think Arenado does it better. So I looked at the graphic, and this is what we came up with. Check this out. With runners in scoring position on the road, so I say, okay, meaningful at-bats, let's take the Coors aspect out of it. This is what separated for me the difference why I put Arenado 1 and Bryant 2. A decent sample size of plate appearances, a huge difference in average, but especially OPS. You're talking over 400 points. By the way, with those numbers with Arenado, you can even add runners in scoring position with 2 outs, and Arenado ranks as the #1 third baseman in OPS in these situations. So for me, I sway to the Bryant side because I think the base running is exceptional. But I put Arenado just ahead of him this year because of that stat runners in scoring position and the fact that he's such an elite defender. I can't get over the fact of what he brings on both sides of the table. I know you hate this, but he's also a glue guy, BK. He's the type of guy. He's the type of guy you build teams around. But in this list, honestly, you can go 5, 6 deep of what you would want to build a team around. But for me, that runners in scoring position stat, it was so staggering, and there was a big separation between the two, although the sample size, I would have loved to see maybe 300 plate appearances. No one gets that during the season. That's why I put Arenado 1.
But the shredder does not have a glue component criteria.
I know
there's no glue. That stat, look, is completely legitimate for an MVP discussion, like what has just happened. But if I'm looking at what is going to happen over the next 6 months of the regular season, I don't know. Now, you're kind of saying you think it is a trait that he brings with him. I would expect fluctuations in that year to year. All right, so I think that's the difference. That you're thinking he's bringing that going forward, Arenado, that ability to drive in runs. I'm thinking he's going to have some years that are great, some years that might be a little down. We'll see where that is.
Basically, I think one last point on Arenado. I think it's so underrated. He is exactly 8 months older than Kris Bryant and just a year older than Manny Machado. I don't think most people realize that.
He's a young guy.
Young guy. I think most people think he's 29, maybe 30. He's as young as these other Bucks.
I like that you still found room because I couldn't. You basically, you have your pet project. I bring this up a lot with the sabermetric panel. You have Jake Lamb at number 10. You wanted to get Jake Lamb in on your list. Explain that.
I did. You know, and he was 10 for me last year as well. He's the type of guy, great first half. He fizzles out a little bit in the second half. But for me, after 2 full seasons of understanding what you need to do, postseason experience as well, I look for him to be a type of guy that I think when you look at a Paul Goldschmidt, you have guys that put together full 6 months campaigns that are outstanding. I just think he's the type of guy that's going to be able to do it next year.
All right, let me throw something at you, right? This is just to throw into the mix. And I brought this up. Vince Gennaro has done studies with Saber about players who hit good pitching. Justin Turner has not just had the history of, hey, he had a really good playoff run. I think he's kind of established he's going to be very good in the playoffs all the time. He hits good pitching. He can crush it. Could you make an argument if he is playing a full season, he didn't last year, not quite, that he could be challenging Bryant and Arenado at the
Absolutely. And I think on the good hitting aspect, I would throw Alex Bregman in there. I don't put him as good as those guys in the total picture, but when you talk about hitting good pitching, I definitely put him there. The one guy on the list that I think could really make a big jump, and I think the fans liked it as well, is Manny Machado. You know, I do think the metrics showed that he was still hitting the ball hard. He was a little bit unlucky. Hopefully that evens out. They say it evens out. Most position players don't think it does. But he's the type of guy who, I mean, he's going into his walk here. I could see him hit 40-plus home runs, maybe be close to that 50 home run mark, and it could catapult him from 7 this year into that 1-2 spot.
You know, the thing is, for Machado, I'll say this again, you can be great and erratic, and at other positions, you could be number 2 and number 1. But here we're talking about players that are great and are not erratic, right? So I can't put him over the top on that. Like, when have you seen Arenado, Bryant, or Donaldson, now, or Ramirez over the last 2 years, having 2 months of, like, just being a washout? And that's what happened to Machado. I know his ceiling is here, but at this level of competition, I don't think he beats those guys.
No, I agree with you in that sense, and I'd even throw Justin Turner in there. For me, I still remember doing the list 2 years ago, and I was like, man, he's really good, but he hasn't put it together for a full year at third base. And this is 4 years now where it's all-star caliber season. So I love the fact that he's being regarded as one of the elite guys. Once again, you know, the story's outstanding. He's 33. You know, he's not one of these 26-year-olds. He's had to grind out and make himself into an elite third baseman. It's been pretty cool to watch what he does.
You know, what else is good about this is now you have something to back it up rather than you just saying, hey, you know what? He's a better defender than everyone thinks. Right. It's like, no, I know he doesn't have the body that looks like, it doesn't look like you even, right? Like just a slim guy that can play the position, tall, the whole thing. He doesn't have that look, but who cares? Are you getting to outs? And he's creating a lot of outs.
Yeah, I mean, if we go just by the eye test, Jose Ramirez wouldn't even be in the top 10. Because you look at Jake Lamb, Moustakas, these are big, strong guys. Not that Jose Ramirez is a little, you know, second baseman from the 70s, but he doesn't measure up physically from what you see. But his numbers are outstanding. So it's a pretty unique group of guys that, you know, even like the Bregman types that have moved from position to accommodate their team. It's a pretty unique group and a very talented group.
I've asked this before with Bill James and the others. Why do you think this is now basically the best position in baseball? Again, you came up and you eventually somehow got to third base. Why are we getting so many superior athletes now, the top players, are getting to third base?
I think we're realizing two things, that you can put a shortstop at third and he can be valuable defensively. I think there was a little bit of a perception that just plug a guy at third and first and defense isn't that important. If you bring something else to the table, well, great. And I think team structure as well. You know, when you got a Carlos Correa and a Bregman, you know, you're like, well, that's fine. Who can play third as well? So I think it does go in cycles. I think third base took a little bit of a dip. I think at one point it was Chipper Jones, Scott Rowland, Adrian Beltre, you know, in the National League. It's crazy. I'm saying this 10 years ago, and Beltre's still on the list, which makes him so outstanding. It's just very a unique group, very cool group to kind of break down.
It's a golden age show we can enjoy. Mike Wohl, thank you so much. See you next time on Top 10 Right Now.